there seems to be this understanding when it comes to Generation Z, how a lot of Generation Z, they're understanding that the traditional 9 to 5 is something that they don't want to participate into anymore. And a lot of them are finding themselves being kicked out, being homeless. And the few that are lucky enough to meet, eventually their parents are going to get tired of that and they're going to have to find a 9 to 5. But a lot of this younger generation, they're figuring out that having your own business and going that route seems way more profitable, and it seems way more good investment in your time. The problem is that when you're in a when you grow up in a generation where you see a bunch of people get rich on the internet making millions of dollars, it kind of gives a false sense that you can easily replicate that or try to do that too. And this leads millions of people to the road of destruction when you give a false sense of hope. And this false sense of hope, it becomes like it starts to become a defining theme of a generation where they see how abusive the workplace is. They see how abusive, their home life is, dealing with isolation. Because I know a lot of Gen Zers, they have social anxiety. A lot of bosses talk about how, like Gen Z, that some of them ask for special requirements and prerequisites before they get hired or when they're on board. And you know, like the old generation, the old guard is used to people just taking it and being quiet. The old guard is not used to, people standing up for themselves and like just really setting their foot down and saying, look, you're going to pay us, or certain warehouses are going to, go to the flames. You're going to pay us, or this is going to happen. People are going to, somebody like what's his name, Luigi, whatever. That whole situation. You start to have that type of situation where people, they get fed up supposedly, or that could have been a government thing, but just saying. But you have a whole entire generation that understands that they'll never be able to afford a house. And it's not just Generation Z, it's people in my generation caught up with that. People, that even a little bit older, but Generation Z finally gets it. They're finally speaking up about it. Back in the 90s, if you say that, a 9 to 5 is bad, people will look at you crazy, right? Nowadays, if you say it, everybody kind of agrees, but some people, they still refuse to agree, even though they know deep down inside they want to be living out their dreams and ambitions. They just can't believe that they've been fooled by a system for 50 years. And some people are just stubborn like that. Like, some people where even if they know they're wrong, they still refuse to say sorry, or they still refuse to do anything about them being wrong. And you have a whole society like this where you have these Asian boomers that they could sell their houses for a lower price for a young 20-year-old, 25-year-old, guy. He got his money right, he's looking to get a house, but he can't find something that's affordable, and you can sell it to him in his 20s. You're already an older person. You can go to another country and retire forever with that money. Like, you don't have to be greedy. But it's why a lot of these private companies are buying up these houses, and then they're not selling them. That's another Illuminati plot where you'll own nothing and be happy. So now you have a whole generation of young men that have to grow up isolated and devastated and annoyed. They can't find employment. They can't find a woman. They can't find happiness. The copes are running thin. What's that going to naturally lead to? It's going to lead to a progression of aggression. It's going to lead to this to the sophistication of organized resistance to the establishment. And that's going to lead to a lot more ER situations where people lose their mind. They lose the lack of the ability to stay within the bounds of society. And once that happens, you become a threat to the system. The system is threatened by free ideas and free thinkers. The system doesn't want anybody to think outside the preliminary conditions of the system. So that's why if you say you want to become a content creator or something like that, people look at you like you're crazy. No one's going to believe you till you have 1 million subscribers, or at least 100,000, and you're doing it full time. Then people will believe you. It's the same with making music or anything. No one's going to believe if you're a rapper if you don't have a nice house, you know, a nice whip, cool crib, a nice whip, and a bad dame with a nice body frame. If you don't have those things, and if you're not stunting, if your music videos ain't getting millions of views and all that, people are going to look down on you, right? Even if your music is good, people like to judge. They like to take one look at somebody and think they know somebody, or learn this about a person and think they know everything about them, right? This is like the human mindset, the judge, to try to create the other, to try to create the us versus them, or them versus this. It's crazy and it's psychotic. But that's the mindset of humans, the mindset that's been programmed into humans. But this new generation, they're seeing life for what it is. Life is too short, to just be miserable all the time. But the problem is, when your life is miserable, it's hard for you to be happy. You can't just fake happiness. Like on the battlefield of war, you can't be in the streets of Stalingrad and saying, well, I'm on the beaches of California. It's like, no, you can do that, but you're going to catch sniper fire, artillery fire. There's an enemy coming down the stairs. There's enemies in the basement. There's a mine there right next to that staircase. You can try to ignore it if you want, but it's going to get you eventually, you know, and it's going to be brutal. Reality has a way of reminding you of your situation, especially guys in our situation. Like, you're going to see that cute girl, that cute cashier is going to frown at you, and it's going to remind you why you never leave your room in the first place. And every time you do, there's something that dooms you. There's something that wrongs you. There's something that attacks you. Every single time you leave your room is doom. On the outside of your room is doom. Point blank, period. Notice most of your problems come because of things that are outside your room. Your job is outside your room. Your family, everybody that harasses you, they're usually outside your room. Usually in your room is like your safe zone. It's like Resident Evil. Me going to the save room and it has the good music, the good piano music or whatever. I love that music, and that's how it feels when you're in a neat cave. But there's always something to pull you out. Even if you're trying to work on a business that can eventually take off, it takes time. And when you're trying to build something, you need to be in an established place where you can build, where you can focus your full energy on your creative innovation and abilities. Like, your creative juices need to flow, and it needs to be like, you need to be in environments that nurture your talents. Because if you're in environments that take away from your talents, or if you're in environments that destroy your talents and make you feel less than yourself, you're never going to grow. And that's the problem with a lot of us, is we never really leave the cycle of abuse that damned us. We get trapped in this perpetual cycle of abuse. Even if our environment does eventually change, we still have those stains on our soul, that pain on our soul that breaks us down even worse. There's things that you go through in your life that stay with you forever. There's things that you'll never forget that happened to you, and they'll always be a part of you. And it happened when you were young. So long ago, we still think about these memories that haunt us. They haunt us in our dreams, and they haunt us in our nightmares, and they haunt us in our everyday waking life. And it's absolutely brutal to not be able to find any type of peace, any type of happiness. And your copes are only there for a second, and then they're gone. And then you need, to get more copes. And if we had a good life, we would probably even need copes. Like, our copes would probably be luxuries, or not even luxuries. You probably wouldn't even care about them that much, because we'll be living life. That's why it's important to try to get rich. Even if you know you'll never be rich, at least try. Even if you know it's hopeless to try, just try it anyway. Even if it's too old for you to rap, do it anyway. Why not? If you make $1 from it, that's successful in my eyes. If you get one sale, that's successful. If one person, watches your video, it's successful in my eyes. If one person likes it, it's successful, because that's one person that you were able to, you know, get to feel you, get to understand your point of view and your perspectives. And I think that's a rare type of thing. And I think that's a good insight. If multiple people can understand each other's perspectives and have the same feelings about life, then there's something there. If there's an ember, there's a flame. You know, if there's smoke, there's fire. So there's a reason why in the Bible, this God didn't want us working together. The Tower of Babel. He changed everybody's, language, and he made the tower pretty much dissipate. But he did that because he said, look what man's building. If they can do that, if they put their minds together, there's nothing that they can't do. So this is why you have this Because remember, the demiurge does all this wickedness from the shadow realms. So remember that this God is making sure that the older generation are being such assholes to the new generation. We're in the worst economic time in American history, one of the worst. And you have the older generation hogging wealth. You have people that are 70, 80 years old with a few $1,000,000, and they don't even need it. And instead of like passing it down to their grandchildren, they don't even put that in their will. And even if they do put it in their will, they do it in a way which is probably going to cause problems. Or if they do it, they do it in a way where their favorite grandchild or their favorite person gets to hold 2 or 3 million, and that person's probably the biggest asshole and the one least deserving of it, but the one's going to get it. And the person that deserves it more, the person that's a neat or hikikomori, and they'll love to get a few $1,000,000 from their grandfather, you know, and they'll never have to be bothered with anybody. You can stay in your room, you can stay in your house all day, play games, smoke weed, do whatever you want. You don't have to bow to no one, don't have to kiss nobody's ass, and just have your own money, have your own power, and have your own independence. And people can call you a loser, they can call you a failure, they can call you whatever they want, but you have peace in your mind. You don't have to interact with those people ever again. And that's why I'm willing to sell my soul to be a millionaire. And that's probably one of the reasons why I'll never ever get to that position to do it. You know, point blank period. I said it. I said I'll sell my soul if I could be a fucking multi-millionaire rapper. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. That's what I want to do. It may not be your dream, but it's mine. I don't give a damn. I want the money. I want the power. I want the respect. I want the fame. I want the women. I want the exotic cars. I want to live that fast life, man. Because I've been living a terrible, slow life. And I want to be extremely famous too. So who knows what rituals I have to be involved with, which is evil and wicked. But it's like I want to be rich, you know? So it's like, am I evil for wanting the things of this world? Where some of these things are fucking glamorous and some of them you don't really need, but some of them you do need, like money. So am I wrong for just wanting to have the money? Let's say I don't want the fame. Let's say I just want the money. I just want to be anonymous, but just have a lot of money. Am I wrong for wanting to be happy and having the things I want and enjoying life? Or is the God who created all this wrong for making this dimension have artificial scarcity? Artificial scarcity is the bane of human existence. Artificial scarcity is why people are trapped. They're trapped in these myriad of emotional fluctuations and different types of actualizations that are associated negatively. The strongest thing the human being can withstand, the sorrow, the pain, the isolation, those strong things, those strong elements are some of the strongest that people face. The loss of somebody, extreme feelings of disassociation, whatever. When you go through those things, yes, sometimes it does strengthen you and it makes you stronger, but it makes you colder and it makes you sharper as well. You're not so willing to forgive when you already know how people really are. So going through a lot of things in life, it doesn't make you a better person. That's why when those boomers are like, oh, you guys just have to work hard and pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and you guys are not trying hard enough, and this, that, and this. When they say that, it just makes the younger generation so angry because a lot of the people that are younger are probably working harder than the boomers ever worked. Some people, they got to work the job as, you got to work at the damn, Amazon warehouse, and then you got to do a forklift at another warehouse, and then you got to do, some other job on the side, and then you got another hustle, and that's just for you to pay the rent. That has nothing to do with your internet bill, your light bill. That all that's just for rent. Then you got to worry about taxes, you know. So it's a lot of things that are in this world that are designed to make us feel small. That is designed to make us not feel like humans should, rely on each other. There's billions of us. Yeah, we don't even rely on each other. Like right now, if I don't have any money, there's billions of us. There should be somebody willing to say, hey, man, you can borrow this until you get paid or whatever, And if we all loved each other as humanity's supposed to love each other, instead of being persuaded to dislike each other due to artificial differences. Because at the end of the day, we all have the same functionality. Everybody uses the bathroom. Everybody brushes their teeth. Everybody goes to the shower. It doesn't matter what skin color configuration you do these things. Everybody has sexual fantasies, right? Everybody has dreams of being wealthy for the most part and just being at peace and not being bothered with anybody. You know, one thing I can't stand though is this idea that humans have free will and that somehow we were born like we chose this life. I didn't choose this. I would have never chose a life as horrible as this. A life where I have a gift to be rich, but I can never be rich because I have a God that doesn't want me to be rich. you know, and that purposely destroyed me. That purposely put me around the most volatile, toxic situations that one can endure. And not only for a few seconds, but put me around these things for hours, years, months, days, weeks. And I had no escape. I had no escape. I had no escape. I wanted to escape so bad. All the pain, all the agony, I wanted to escape and I couldn't. There was no one there for me. There was no one to talk to. All I had was people that did not like me and wanted to see me suffer and then enjoyed my suffering and then went out of their way to make sure I suffered even more. Do you know how sick, sadistic, and cruel that is? People in our position, we don't get a lot of things in life handed to us very often. Everything that we get, we have to fight for. Everything that we get, we have to go through hell for. Meanwhile, the simple things like somebody getting a car as soon as they turn 16, they don't even have to get good grades. They turn 16, here's a car. They turn 18. Oh, we help get you your first apartment. I see that there's 6 months rent paid off, and then you find a job and we can help you out. Meanwhile, people get thrown out at homeless at 18 or even younger, and they have nowhere. They have no support. Like, if you got a family, if you got a mom and a dad, that loves you and cares about you, don't take that for granted, man. Don't. Even if your dad may annoy you, your mom may annoy you from time to time, don't take that for granted. Because if they love you, if they haven't kicked you out and left you homeless, that's what a lot of people do. That's what a lot of parents do. And as long as you have that, man, you have a foundation to build. Try to start a YouTube channel. There's no success that you will make it. Hell, I didn't think I'll ever get this far. Well, like I never thought that people would actually listen to me, talk on the internet. Because I've been trying it for years and it never took off until I just started talking about my life, and then people, related to it. I never thought this would happen. I never thought about being a YouTuber. To even today, I don't consider myself a YouTuber. I consider myself a mentally ill, schizophrenic man that's living in poverty that just happens to document his life from time to time and talk about things to vent on the internet. That's it, right? And it's crazy how you can go from being a nothing and a nobody. No one knows who you are. No one cares to know who you are, to having thousands of people that know who you are, and they watch your content and they like your content and they enjoy it. And it's me venting, because if I don't vent, well, you know, yeah, it's just not going to be good if I don't vent. So venting is a form of therapeutic, um, a form of therapy for me, right? Especially in this world today. And recently, they just had, like, I guess Donald Trump had a what was it, like a White House something, and there was supposedly there was bullet projectiles that were fired there. And it does seem so staged. It seems so fake. It's like, man, they must think people are really stupid. Like, people can see whether something, you know, like, I don't know, man. Just there's a lot of strangeness in this world today. There's a lot of strange things, a lot of things going on. Just keep your head on a swivel and just make sure that you're not easily deceived, and make sure no one gaslights you to think that all the negative things in your life is happening because you deserve it or it's your fault. It's not none of our faults that we're in this situation, man. And then you got people who don't like you, that want to have their own emotional issues, and that want to try to add on to your hurt and add on to your pain, man. It's crazy. All you want to do is just live, be peaceful, and mind your business. That's always been my strategy, bro. Don't bother nobody, mind your business, and stay out the way. And somehow I become the center of attention of all type of negativity. Isn't that crazy? You go some places, you go anywhere, you go to the mall, you go to the movies, and based on my skin color configuration, I'm already looked at as an enemy variation. You know what I mean? And it's crazy because it's like that right there tells me that whoever created this, she, whatever, they wanted it to be problems. Like they wanted problems in this life. Like this is what they wanted. They like because they could have designed a world where not everybody's just going to be always at each other's throats and each other's necks. They could have made it where the generation that's older than us had something that we could build off of, had a business idea, maybe a prototype for a new machine or another or a mechanism or something like that that can produce generational wealth. I think everybody should be an entrepreneur. I think everybody should do investing. I think everybody should have a YouTube channel. Why not? You should always have a YouTube channel. You ain't got to be as like you ain't got to do what I do and be as personal. I just do it because this is my form of venting. Like I forget how big my channel is or was, you know, like I forget. Yeah, I treat it like I got 10 or 20 subscribers. Don't, you know, I still treat it like that. So that's why I may, so some of the things I say may offend people, especially when I talk about religion and how there's, the God of this world is wicked and evil from Gnosticism, I may talk about, female, beautiful female attractive privilege, because we know that there's a halo effect and beautiful females get treated better. Females, period, really. And mostly men are in a very lonely position, especially young men who can't provide for themselves because the jobs that are being offered are not providing you with a wage that you can prosper. They're only providing you with a wage where you can rent a room and live on Subway sandwiches every 2 weeks. It's just not. That's why I salute people that are able to make it. Young men that are able to use their business acuity, able to make, whether it's having, a YouTube channel that's successful, whether it's having whatever it is that you can generate your own money, your own income and build up from that. And then you can get away from the system that's designed to drain you and destroy you. Now, don't be tricked. You're still going to be loosed in different ways, but at least you won't be loosed in the exact same ways that's been loosing you for this long time. It's brutal. Absolutely brutal, the things that we have to endure. And having nobody to talk to, because nobody wants to really be your friend. I can't really say that about myself. A lot of people want to be my friend. I can't really know, especially now, but even before, like my group pretty much abandoned me, or I had to pretty much get away from them because people, they grow older, they grow fake, they do things that are just not real. Right. And as people get older, like your regular friend group, people have kids, and a married man with kids doesn't want to be around a man that's unmarried with kids because, you don't have the same responsibilities. Right. There's different responsibilities there, and people just grow apart, after a while, people grow apart from each other. Like you may be close at one time. You guys may be smoking weed every day with each other, putting your money together to get a Swisher, a couple of Swishers, like used to do back in the days. Look in our pockets, look on the car floor, look outside, and try to put enough money together to get a Swisher. The Swisher Sweet, the blueberry one. That was my favorite. And you get two for $1, it'd be like $1.10 or $1.25, or some places be like almost $2, right? And you just got to come up with, like you may be buddy with somebody, and then they have a child, or they get married, and they turn to a completely different person. It's just like, damn, what happened to that person? What happened to, because that moment of time is lost forever. And then if you don't have any support, you're going to find yourself being trapped in the same position for a decade. You'll be 20 years old with no car, no job, no this. And then you'll be 30 years old with no car, no job, no this. And 10 years passed you by, and you still haven't really, and you still haven't, had a girlfriend or something like that. That's brutal. That's a reality that a lot of men face. Meanwhile, your female counterpart, your female looks match, she already done went through, the time she's 21, she already ran through hundreds of guys. The time she's 25, she's pretty much unbearable. And when she hits 30, she's broken. And by 35, 40, it's over, right? This is a brutal reality. And I can see why, man, a lot of people back in the days, like the ancient Stoics, they used to hide themselves in the hills or hide on the outskirts of town or be somewhere far away from people. Like once you gain wisdom and knowledge, you're going to learn that being around people will be your detrimental fall. A lot of things happen just because you're around the wrong people. If you were around the right people, there are a lot of things in your life that would not be happening, right? Just being around the right people changes everything. Certain people give you energy. Certain people take away your energy. Certain people make you feel happy. Certain people make you feel unhappy. Certain people give you inspiration. You ever seen a beautiful woman and you just get inspired? Like, oh man, I'm going to become rich and famous. I'm going to have her one day. And then 2 seconds later, you're like, yeah, that's not happening. But for that moment, that burst of energy you got, you felt excited. Nowadays, I don't feel excited when I see a beautiful woman. I usually turn my head and try to avoid her. Every time I see a beautiful girl, usually I don't even want to pay attention anymore because it's painful. I've been through it so much. When you see a beautiful girl, it hurts because you can never have her. And you already know she's probably with some Chad or Tyrone or some degenerate, who's hitting it from the back, making the nanny smack, hitting it from the side, hitting it from the front, letting her ride, doing all types of dirty, nasty things to her. Meanwhile, all you can do is look at her as she's passing by in the mall and then dream about her later on that night and wake off, and that's it. That's brutal, but that's the reality that a lot of men face. Because some guys don't even have the confidence to go up to a girl and even talk to her, right? And that's understood because that confidence has to be built. You don't just gain confidence one day and jump up and talk to a girl, You have to go to certain life situations that you've been through that reinforce your behavior. When you keep trying to talk to a girl, maybe when you're younger you did, you talk to her and all that, but then like you keep getting rejected, you keep getting attacked, you keep getting those frowns. And sometimes those frowns those girls send you, those scolding frowns, they melt through your soul, bro. They make you feel like trash. When a beautiful girl like frowns at you or laughs at you or rolls her eyes at you, you feel less than a dog hit by a car, bro. It's brutal. It's not a good feeling. And then that feeling kind of stays with you. And then if you notice in your life, there's certain events that go on in your life that always try to replicate those feelings of sorrow, those feelings of rejection, those feelings of feeling low. So that lets you know that there's some program or some system going on in the background that's making sure that our lives are as miserable and as hellacious as possible, which is absolutely brutal when you think about it. Just knowing that no matter what, man, your life is getting better and changing, you getting $1 million and living happily ever after, it's probably never going to happen. And then you're only here for a finite amount of time. You're not here forever. You're only here for a little bit in this world. And then you got to go on into another dimension which you can't even comprehend yet. You don't know if that dimension, like you have a God that can show you a heaven and it could be a fake heaven. And you think this person's a God because it's bright light and all that. This could be an archon tricking you. So you're in a web of deception. That's this whole realm. That's this whole world, man. How are we supposed to fight that? How are we supposed to survive that? How can you survive in a situation where the person that's tricking you and deceiving you creates a whole world and a realm and call themselves God and mind wipes you every time you live? So you're never going to know the real truth. It's like, even if you do find out the truth, right? What does it mean in the end if you can't stop the demiurge and his evil actions? What does it mean in the end where a lot of us going to have to be in positions where we never wanted to be in? But we have to because we don't have nobody there anymore that cares for us. Being in this position is horrible. Especially when you don't have no reinforcements and everything and everyone's against you. And all you want to have is just peace and tranquility and to be left alone and just mind your business, right? Absolutely brutal world we live in, man. It's sometimes it's hard to get up in the morning and quote unquote try to do anything, man, because you're just drained by all the negative emotions and negative energies that are sent to attack you, right? So we got to be strong in this, man. Keep your head up. I know you'll be seeing some beautiful women, out there, just try your best to contain yourself. Peace.